Hi Yuri, this week we're going to learn about the space race as part of our Pioneers, Inventors and Developers unit. You'll be learning to think about how much this so-called space race has actually influenced the way that you and your family live. And some of you, if you want to do the extension task, will be thinking about how this space race developed in the 50s and the 60s, so basically adding a bit of historical knowledge, as well as summarising some other effects it had, not just on you and your family today, but on the US at the time. So, what is the big idea for today's lesson? We're going to start with the premise that innovation, in this case technological developments, often comes from competition. We saw it in the First World War and the Second World War. We also saw it in the so-called Cold War when the USA and the USSR were competing against each other in lots of different ways, and that included this so-called space race. They wanted to dominate space. They tried to put satellites and then shuttles, and eventually the US claimed victory when they put the first man on the moon, Neil Armstrong, in 1969. After that, they started to work together. However, we can still feel the impact of that space race. When you look around your house, there are many, many things that were created by NASA, which is now part of lots of household items and devices. And we call that trickle down or spin off technology. In fact, a little fun fact for you, NASA owns over 6,000 patents to products. That makes the organization arguably probably the greatest inventor in history. So, big question for you today really is, how much has NASA influenced you and your family? Some key words for today. The USA should be quite obvious. The USSR might not be, though. It's the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics. It doesn't exist anymore. It used to be 15 different countries or republics, and they were formed into one union. It was created just after the First World War, and it lasted until 1991. Now, as you can see in the picture there, the red country is Russia, and it was dominated by the Russians. And from the time after the Second World War, up until 1989, these two countries were in a kind of long-term conflict that's referred to as the Cold War. Now, it never really heated up into one army fighting against another army, which is why it's called the Cold War. The relationship was always very cold, but it had the potential to heat up into a conflict. They competed in lots of ways, like the space race. Now, they weren't just doing this to try and show off how amazing their countries were. There were genuine attempts to try to dominate space so that they could maybe use satellite technology to improve their communications, maybe even use nuclear weapons that can go up into space. So there were very real reasons for following through with this big competition. We've mentioned the word patent already. Is one of the key words for today's lesson. A patent is when someone comes up with a new idea and they get it recorded as being their own original idea, and then someone can't just copy it, make the same invention, and make lots of money by stealing someone's idea. So as you've heard there, NASA has got over 6,000 of them, which gives you an idea about how innovative they've been over the years. The last keywords that we've heard already is trickle down or spin-off technology. So just as one example, sunglasses actually come from the space race. This comes from when NASA scientists needed to come up with some kind of material that would protect a astronaut's visor, still allowing them to see out, but protecting them from harmful UV rays from the sun. And eventually that has trickled down to wider society, where people now wear sunglasses for practical, but also for fashionable reasons as well. So what do you need to do next? Well, everyone needs to complete tasks 1 and 2 on the Microsoft assignment. It's a Word document. You can just about see the mind map there. It will ask you to watch a short video and then to have a think about round your house items that you've got that come from NASA technology. You'll be able to look at a website as well as to watch the video for ideas. And there is an example on there. So the cordless drill actually comes from the first mission to the moon, when they wanted to take rock samples, but they needed a drill that you didn't have to plug in. There's one in my house, there might be one in yours. What other examples can you find? There is an extension assignment, it's a Microsoft quiz, but your teacher may or may not offer that to you during the shortened timetable, and it is purely optional anyway. If this is a topic you really enjoy learning about, then on the left there, you can Google this, it's on YouTube. There's a BBC documentary called The Space Race, which goes into loads of detail about how this space race was carried out all the way from after the Second World War, when they were actually stealing German scientists, up until the 1970s. And if you wanted to watch something that's a bit more fun, there's a very famous film called Apollo 13 that is set during this period as well. Enjoy learning about the space race and look forward to seeing what you can find from around your house and taking pictures of on your assignment.